time the boys are going to see you.
Do you think you're coming back?
We have serious problems.
First Man, rated PG-13.
You never forget your first race. And you never back down from the next. You're the brotherhood of muscle.
So-so pizza? Not in this house, because that's no so-so family. That's your family, which is why you didn't grab just any cheese. You picked up new Kraft expertly paired mozzarella and Parmesan for Pete's. Ah, yeah. Kraft. Family greatly.
This is an incredibly dangerous situation.
God help St. George Island. It could be gone after this storm. It is a Category 4 hurricane. It's trying to become a 5.
This is unreal.
Pressure continues to drop. It is marching in our direction with strong winds, 145 miles per hour. This damaging, this destructive wrecking ball making its way to our shorelines. Team effort it takes to cover this kind of stuff. And we've got the amazing Jen Carfagno. She is up in Tallahassee, Florida. Chris Warren's going to be along in just a bit, too. He's in Apalachicola. Hope to have a conversation with him coming up in very short order. But the topic, you know the topic. The topic is Michael. And Michael still just an intense hurricane. Jen mentioned earlier about how we are making history. We've never had a storm of this magnitude, hurricane with this kind of power, make its way to this part of our shorelines in recorded history. So this is going to be a day where we are truly tested. And the thing is, it's not just something that happens just over a series of one day. This could be an issue that we could be dealing with for a very, very long time. Right now, if you look off in the distance, we're seeing waves that occasionally it was one or two that would touch the bottom of that pier constructed back in 2010. Right now, it's about every other wave that's touching it. And I mean, unbelievable. It's hard even to discern some of the waves because with the wind that continues to come through, which is expected to increase, we're seeing some of the tops of these waves just sheared off, and then it just vanishes all into the mist. Amazing. And the waves are going to continue. And the rain is going to increase. And the thing to remember is that we've got some key threats with this system. We've got some big, big threats. We've got the system with the wind increasing and with the rain that's going to be falling down. The wind at Indian Pass, very, very quickly, let's shift gears to that. We're going to go to Indian Pass the time being where you see the wind. That's also going to be a spot where it's going to pick up. And with that coming through, we're going to listen to that for just a moment. Let's listen in. Way down to Cedar Key, and in Cedar Key, Florida, a spot where Jim Cantore and I were just a couple years ago covering a different hurricane. Now, this is a place that's going to be affected too. This is a spot that when you have big landfalling systems, you can have flooding in Cedar Key. That may happen. We got to keep a sharp eye on that, but it looks like this part where we happen to be in Panama City, down to Apalachicola, and every spot in between could catch the brunt of it. But the thing I've got to drive home to you, that I've got to tell you, is that the story, I promise you, does not stop right on the coastline, because this is going to be moving inland. And when it does move inland, you've got a lot of streets, a lot of roads that are going to be inundated. Speaking of which, let's go to Apalachicola, Florida. And that's where my pal and yours, Chris Warren, happens to be. Chris, I got to tell you, where we are, all hell is breaking loose. Can you give us the latest from Apalachicola?
Yeah, it's picking up right now, Reynolds, for sure. The winds have been consistent. Now they're gusting. We're getting the strong gusts, and we're starting to see a little bit of debris flying around. So a little bit of branches, some of this action right here happening. You can see the leaves and the trees blowing around. It's initially the dead parts of the palm trees that are coming down, the typical weaker stuff. We're here on Water Street, and pretty soon, Water Street is expected to be full of water, and I can say that with confidence based on what we're seeing right here. You see this water right here? So we're looking, this is grass going into what should be a boardwalk right here. But instead, the water is now coming up. And you see the motion of this? This is the Apalachicola River flowing in the opposite direction. So the wind from Hurricane Michael is pushing water up the river. And you see now, See the water? See, did you see this right here? That metal ramp. We walked yesterday. We walked down to that floating dock. Now, that water has come up at least 2 or 3 feet. And we're starting to see that surge. We're starting to see the water coming up and coming into this park. The winds are picking up, gusting at times. And if you were watching us yesterday, there was a boat I was worried about that's right over here. And I'm going to continue to watch that. It's pushed right up against the pilings. It's still in its moorage. It's still where it's supposed to be. But we're starting to see water where it's not supposed to be. And we haven't even seen the heaviest of the heavy rain, which also tends to lead to a lot of the flooding here in Apalachicola. It's the water coming out and not being able to drain, because we're essentially now at the Apalachicola River. Right even with this sidewalk is the water. I'm seeing the waves here. And what else we've seen is debris floating through. And at one point, I'm not seeing as much right now. Wow. Actually, looking down the street here, totally flooded. I'll show you that coming up in just a little bit, but not too far away. We have a flooded street right here, which is this. We're here for the duration. We're going to stay. Too dangerous to be on the roads right now. And as we've been telling you, we've been telling everybody, you need to evacuate. You need to be where you need to be yesterday. I'm getting now back undercover here a little bit, and the winds howling, blowing, and looking out over the water. It is a mess. This is a sea, which is not normally a sea. This is a river, the Apalachicola River, essentially flowing in the opposite direction, because we are looking at the strong winds, and this isn't even the worst of it yet. This water is expected to rise. We've already seen a lot of, it looks like at some point like a beach had got torn up. We saw a ton of grass going by. We saw a propane tank going by. So already early on in the game, we're seeing what Hurricane Michael is doing here in Apalachicola, and flooding is going to be one of the big factors with this. Let's go back to my friend Reynolds Wolf at Panama City Beach for a look at what he's seeing, Reynolds. And it is relentless, and we're seeing a little bit of debris right here in Apalachicola, but this is just the beginning, and this water is expected to rise. And Reynolds, where I'm standing right now, I imagine in a few hours I will not be able to stand here. And we have another position we're going to go to that is safe and well away from the water, coming up in a little bit.
Chris, there's a lot of that going on. You're actually right. A lot of people moving for safety's sake. It's funny, you were talking about the Apalachicola River moving in opposite direction. The same thing happened with Irma last year when I was in Jacksonville. The St. Johns River, opposite direction, widespread flooding. And the thing to consider is that was not even in the cone. So there are all kinds of deals, all kinds of problems we could be dealing with outside of that. So just keep that in mind, folks. Now, as the seagull flies from my location to Tallahassee, Florida, it's just a little bit over the century mark, just 100 miles or so. And some people might think, okay, well, from that position, away from the shoreline, it's got to be a safe spot. Not so fast. Let's bring in my pal, Jen Carfagno. And Jen, one thing that we really have to think about is with the wind and with the potential of the tree damage, which I think could very soon become a reality, a lot of emergency crews, a lot of first responders it may be a tough time for them to go from one point to another across the map to try to lend the assistance that so many people need. So a lot of families are really going to have to rough it. They're going to be on their own for possibly days, maybe even longer.
Yeah, well, exactly, Reynolds here, and that's the point we want to drive home, that at this point, you need to be focused on staying in your safe place, in your shelter, for the duration of the storm, and to some extent, it could be a while after, a day or two before power gets back out, before roads are cleared. We know especially where we get the core of Hurricane Michael, the strong, historic Category 4 hurricane making landfall, Reynolds, that it's going to cause catastrophic damage. There's going to be a lot of damage, blocking roadways, and that's especially near the coast, but even inland, because we know a storm like this, Reynolds, doesn't wind down very quickly. It's going to be powerful when it makes landfall. It's going to be moving fast, so it's going to bring that power with it as it moves inland. I think power out and people being stranded without power, without being able to get out because of roads blocked, that's going to be a concern. And of course, if someone needs emergency services, there may be delay because of the conditions, Reynolds.
Absolutely, Jen. I was actually in your position where you are right now during Hurricane Hermine. I believe this was 2 years ago, something like that. Quick question: where you happen to be in your location in the capital city? We did have the evacuations here along the coastline. Have you seen any evacuees staying at your hotel in that area that have left the shores?
Oh, 100%, Reynolds. Our hotel is 100% full, and it was not when I first arrived, but it has filled up since then, and as are all the hotels in the area here. Tallahassee is a city where people evacuate to, coming from those vulnerable areas along the coastline. So there's a lot of people here who are either in the hotels or staying with friends and family or in the shelters. And there are 6 shelters open in Leon County here. Of course, the area near Wakulla County had to evacuate, a very vulnerable area, but there were no shelters for anything stronger than a Cat 2. So even yesterday, when Michael was a Cat 3, they had to move up here to Leon County. So there's a lot of people that have moved here that have moved up here from the vulnerable areas along the coast to evacuate to this area. And so, Reynolds, of course, now you move to an area and you don't want to move to somewhere that could lose power. But this, if you're in a safe place, if you're inside, if you have all your supplies and you know that you're going to be without power for hours, maybe for a day or two, perhaps longer, but knowing that you are ready, I think goes a long way, don't you think, if you're ready for the storm?
Jen, you're absolutely right. There's nobody wiser. You're absolutely right about that. Jen, I keep thinking, though, about a lot of the families that we'll be staying in these shelters that left the coastline. They've got their homes here. Now they're having the painful time of wait and see. They're waiting for this to be over. And then you think about trying to rebuild. Many of them are going to be wondering, is my home still there? Is what I've built, is what I've worked for, is it still going to be here? But I think the thing that we got to drive home, Jen, is it's all about safety, right? It's about getting those families away from the coastline, and it's a great move to see the people do that. Hey, we're going to shift gears a little bit. Let's bring Chris back in. Chris Warren over in Apalachicola. Jen, it's so great chatting with you. Jen, let's bring it back over to Chris. Chris, you were talking about the water coming up. You are seeing, I know, the river, the Apalachicola River, moving in the opposite direction due to the wind really piling up the water. Are you seeing a lot of things happening on the streets? We heard about submerged cars.
No, I haven't seen any submerged cars yet, but can you see this street right here? This is about a half a block, and then it's water. I'm not sure how well it's showing up, but I'm going to show you right here. So this is water, flood waters from the Apalachicola River. Now, I can't say the whole river is flowing. I can't say the whole river is flowing in reverse, but the surface of it, the wind waves, are pushing the water this way. So it appears as if the water is flowing in reverse. But you see this water right here. This is the parking lot if you were to come and check out the park. And you can see now it is starting to flood minute by minute. We are seeing the inundation of the water here. And Apalachicola police out. No, watch this police car right here, this vehicle. They're going to have to turn left. That's as far as this road goes. This is a flooded road. Now, this is going to be one of the areas that's more likely to flood here in Apalachicola. Very low-lying, very close to the river. And, in fact, I just spoke with the police officer. I just talked to, I'm not sure if it was that police officer or another one, who said that she had just gotten a call that there was already a tree down on a house. And so she left to go check that out. So already, ahead of the worst impacts from this storm, from Hurricane Michael, getting reports of trees down, or at least one tree down onto a house that the Apalachicola police was going to check out, go investigate. But this is going to be one of the big stories here. It is this flooding that we are seeing going all the way down this street, getting around. If people have not left and they're planning on leaving this morning, not a good idea. It's just now too dangerous to be out. With the rain and the wind coming down, the possibility for more trees coming down all morning long, even before the wind started gusting as strong as they are now, there have been power flashes. We still have power here. It's rather remarkable at this point here in downtown Apalachicola. Small town, quiet and quaint, old Florida, if you will, here in Apalachicola. A population a little bit more than 2,000 residents, most of which are not here. It's been more like a ghost town, and for good reason. And can you see this? Can you see how the water is being picked up by these winds? This flooded street here, Water Street here in downtown Apalachicola, right along the Apalachicola River. And I'm keeping an eye, too. We have a pretty clear shot down the street. I mean, we're standing in the middle of the street, and that's a testament to the fact that this is essentially a ghost town here. I'm watching for debris, and so far, the integrity of the structures that I'm seeing seem to be completely intact. It's just this consistent blowing wind and now driving the water, both the water that's falling from the sky and the water that's coming in from the Apalachicola River. And these businesses are ready. This, an art gallery of some sort, I'm told they brought all of the work upstairs And you can see that they have fortified this. They have taken the plywood and plastered the plastic, essentially smashed it in. The plastic goes down and underneath these sandbags here, and all with a thought and perhaps even the knowledge, the foresight that this is coming. And this is the water from the Apalachicola River that is currently coming in from Matthew. This is the southerly direction, so the winds are coming out of the southeasterly direction from Hurricane Michael right now, and it's helping to blow in the water, blowing in the water that should be going out to the Apalachicola, out to the bay, and then eventually out to the Gulf of Mexico, but not right now. This water is coming in, and it is coming in strong. The wind's pushing that water down the street, and you can see there in the distance. Oh, wow. You know what? I can't tell. I don't know. Amy, if you can go in, is that a vehicle? It's a little far away. I'm not sure if you can see. Does that look like a vehicle, maybe with the water up to its back bumper? It's hard to tell. I can't see very well. And I think there's a white truck there as well. And then beyond that, I think that's an SUV. Okay, there's a back of a white pickup there. Actually, I think what else? I think my eyes were deceiving me too. I think that's a dumpster beyond that, which I thought was a vehicle. But no, that's the back of a truck. We want to go right now to Dr. Greg Postel with some breaking news. Dr. Postel.
Yeah, Chris, thank you very much. We got our first extreme wind warning now for the eye wall of extremely dangerous Hurricane Michael that is closing in now on the northern Gulf Coast. This extreme warning is for winds over 130 miles per hour for Bay, Franklin, and Gulf counties. Goes until 2:15. It is for the eye wall, which is just offshore. Conditions are going to get radically bad very quickly. Take shelter now.
Joining meeting.
Fight your cough and break up mucus with new Alka-Seltzer Plus Cough and Mucus. Just one pill works 12 hours, all day or all night. Max your cold relief with Alka-Seltzer Plus.
What does Help for Heart Failure look like? It looks like this. Entresto is a heart failure pill that helped keep people alive and out of the hospital. Don't take Entresto if pregnant. It can cause harm or death to an unborn baby. Don't take Entresto with an ACE inhibitor or aliskiren, or if you've had angioedema with an ACE or ARB. The most serious side effects are angioedema, low blood pressure, kidney problems, or high blood potassium. Ask your doctor about Entresto.
The beat goes on.
Yeah.
Our craftsmen begin each day perfectly seasoning our Hillshire Farm smoked sausage. So by simply adding the right ingredients, you can end each day crafting a perfectly delicious dinner.
Hey guys, today we're here to talk about trucks.
I love trucks.
What the heck is that? Well, what truck brand comes from the family of the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road?
I think it's a Chevy.
Ford. Is it Ford? Nope, it's not Ford.
I think it's Ram.
Is it Ram? Not Ram.
It's Chevy.
That's right. From the family of the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Gorgeous. Chevy hit it out of the ballpark with these.
Hi, Phil Swift here. This storm season, get the entire family of Flex Seal products. Flex Seal coats, seals, and protects. It's liquid rubber in a can. Flex Seal Liquid creates a watertight seal that lasts for years. With Flex Shot, you can seal out the elements. And for big storm damage, there's Flex Tape, the super strong waterproof tape. And Flex Glue holds on tight, even in the toughest conditions. Make the Flex Seal family part of your storm preparation kit.
Promote what makes your business great with Vistaprint. Whether it's a business card, a banner, or a postcard, we have the paper stocks, sizes, and design options to create marketing that's right for your business. Give it a try with 500 standard business cards starting at just $9.99.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to have an attorney.
Ma'am, he'll be read his rights and taken to the station.
What about my rights?
In Florida, those accused of a crime are read their constitutional rights. But what about victims? No criminal should have stronger rights than their victim. It's time for equal rights. It's time for Amendment 6.
I've been a doctor at MCCI for 14 years.
13 years.
14 years.
I've been working with the doctors at MCCI for 23 years.
18 years.
8 years.
I've been an MCCI patient for 10 years.
14 years.
For 11 years. 7 years.
So come, find out why MCCI ranks
amongst the nation's best
in patient retention and physician tenure.
MCCI. All your medical needs under one roof.
57. That's 1-800-483-0257.
Every season, every storm, every time you watch, trust in the Weather Channel.
Currently in our area, 83 degrees under mostly cloudy skies. Today, thunderstorms developing in the afternoon. High 90. Chance of rain 40%. Tonight, some clouds. Low 78. Winds south at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Thursday, thunderstorms developing in the afternoon. High 90. Chance of rain 80%. Here's our 7-day outlook.
There are times when the tropics happen to be a bit of a whisper, and there are others when the tropics are a roar. Right now it is roaring, and you see the effects of what's happening here at Panama City Beach. The waves just coming in, just a never-ending process. I mean, just monstrous. They're going to roll and build and get bigger. The wind is going to intensify, and it's not just going to be at our present location, but also to other spots, including Apalachicola, where Chris Warren happens to be. Chris, I know we now have an extreme wind warning, where we happen to be in Bay County and at your location, so I think it may be really, really wise idea to make sure that we've got a good spot. It certainly could be quite dangerous if we roll forward over the next several hours.
Yeah, and already here in Apalachicola, Reynolds, we heard a report from a police officer that there was a tree down on a house already. And I was looking just a few moments ago. I saw what I thought was debris in the water, and I don't see it anymore. But what it was, I saw a head pop up. It was 2 or 3, I think maybe otters, maybe river otters that had come up here onto Water Street, now in that building. In fact, there they are actually down in the distance, right along. If you follow down the sidewalk right, and I think they're heading maybe back to, no, yeah, they're still there. So it's one of the things, when you have a hurricane like this, something that could be, and hopefully it's just once in a lifetime. Hopefully we don't see something like this again, because this is a monster, this is a beast. But you see things that you don't expect. And I didn't expect to walk out here onto Water Street and see some animals. And right there, if you follow straight down, right down the center line, I think I'm seeing some heads bobbing up. Yep, there's 2 of them, I think, right there, going to the left side. And that's also a reminder that when this is over, when this storm moves on, and unfortunately there's likely going to be some massive cleanup, some massive recovery in the panhandle of Florida, there's going to be things and creatures in places where you wouldn't expect it. And you have to think about venomous snakes. You think about all sorts of insects that potentially may get into places that you don't think of. But right now, we are still on the front end of this storm, a powerful hurricane with the potential for doing extreme damage to parts of the Florida coastline here. A Category 4 hurricane. We're well away from the center of the storm right now here in Apalachicola, but the winds are picking up, and so is the water here where we are on Water Street, looking across at the park. The water from the river is well into the park. There's a boardwalk that is usually right in front of those pilings. And you see that ramp, that metal ramp right there? That is supposed to be going down. Yesterday, we walked down the ramp and it was going in the opposite direction. It was going down to that floating dock. Now, that floating dock is doing what it's supposed to do. It's riding up and down the pilings here. But unfortunately, we're seeing that water now coming beyond the river, beyond where it normally would be flowing, and normally flowing in the opposite direction. But the winds from Hurricane Michael pushing some of that water upstream, essentially. Now, not expecting that to be, as a big of a factor, the water flowing in, because there is a bay. The big factor here is still going to be the storm surge associated with this hurricane. It's going to be that push of ocean water in here. And Reynolds, we are seeing occasionally more frequent wind gusts. And I think just looking around, I think we may be out of power now as well, which I figure has been a long time coming. So winds are picking up here, Reynolds, and it's still early in the game here in Apalachicola.
Exactly. Okay, Chris, thanks so much. You're right. I heard you mention about the power outages, and I'll tell you, the power that we're seeing here, look at that. The wind and the rain so strong at this point, you can't even see the pier off in the distance. Let's take you to Indian Pass for just a few moments. You'll see the story there. Very similar. A lot of storm surge, a lot of issues, a lot of flooding. It looks like it's going to become a certainty, not just prospect. Wind gusts now up to 60 miles an hour. We talked earlier about the extreme winds. Let's listen for just a few moments. It's truly an assault on all the senses when it comes to this kind of stuff, the wind, the rain, everything. We're actually going to move back. Let's move back a little bit to more shelter. The waters continue to come on up. Jacques is the man behind the camera. Jacques Star. Let's bring in one of our other stars, Dr. Greg Postel. Dr. Postel, if you can, explain to us about the extreme wind warnings and what that can mean to a coastline, if you don't mind.
Yes, it's for extreme winds over 115 miles per hour, and that is expected now across the Florida coastline. We have an extreme wind for Bay, Franklin, and Gulf counties for the eye wall that is within the hour going to make it on the coastline. And when it does, expect wind gusts well over 130 miles per hour. The pressures continue to fall. This storm continues to intensify all the way up to land. Take shelter now all up and down the Florida coast. Again, this is a quick reminder of what that extreme wind warning goes. We're going to see a lot more of these today as we go inland too, not just at the coast. It is for sustained winds of 115 miles per hour. This is what you need to do. Go to an interior room of the whatever shelter you're in and get away from windows and protect your head if necessary. Let me quick and time out. And I think this is an underestimate of what some of those wind gusts are going to be going through the early afternoon hours. 123 at Panama City. In that eye wall, there will be wind gusts